This is an SM Media production. Hi folks, and welcome to the latest episode of SM Media's Road to Cheltenham 2023. I'm Scott McPike. It is a pleasure to be your host as always, and it is always a pleasure to be joined by from the Scottish Daily Mail, Callum McClurkin. Callum, 10, 12 sleeps until the big day. How are we feeling?
It's always getting closer now with March. Now here, later nights. It's all systems go now for Cheltenham. It's really final preparation time. It's kind of the time we've got to kind of stick your neck in the line of each race and take these kind of. I mean, you're going to get better terms of the day, but now is the time to really form an opinion, because if you don't have one, then you're probably best to leave things alone.
Yeah, absolutely. We are going to, this is the second last kind of show like this that we're going to do. We're going to do another one on Friday night, which will be a kind of final kind of individual show like this. But we are going to have a special Cheltenham preview show that will drop on Sunday. We're going to have a couple of guests on the show as well, Callum. It's going to be quite exciting. We've got 2 shows left, and then it's the big Cheltenham Festival.
Yeah, it's not always exciting in March. You know, you're looking at kind of the exchanges early on, see where horses are going. That's beginning to finalise even in the novice hurdlers, and you just hope that kind of, you know, all your vacant horses really kind of get there. Even though with the non-run no bet concessions, you want a kind of a decent Ante Post book to go to war with.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to start actually with some questions. We've got a few questions this week. First things first. After the weights have been released, what do you feel is the best handicapped horse for the festival? Do you want to go first?
Yeah, probably a British one, given these kind of wee minor Irish hikes, because you don't really know what the Irish kind of given that they're probably having to hold a bit more back. So I'd probably have to say a British horse. I'd probably go with Caprons, because I think he's been pretty much lead out for this as of last season. £2 lower went fourth when the monsoon came on the Wednesday. He ran a cracker on that. He obviously vindicated his kind of decent quality that he's got by going to Punchestown and winning fairly easily. This has probably been the target all year. He's been running over kind of inadequate trips and quick turnarounds all season to get his mark down, and I think off £2 lower, with it getting harder and harder to get unexposed horses really kind of thrown in from across the water, you know, I can see why there's been nibbles of support for him, because his form's probably not worth taking in face value this season, and for him getting down to £2 lower where he was last year is probably a decent achievement. So I would say him.
Yep, I've got 2 that kind of catch my eye. The first one, Grand Daniel Rouge Vif 137. I think that's really, really generous. This was a 154 horse a couple of years ago, and he looked like that. 137 is quite big, and I just can't get them. I've kind of the attempts. I've kind of thought that with these kind of short prices and things like that, what are we dealing with? Shoot First off 139 looks remarkably nice.
Yes, I mean, again, they would have been definitely a top 5. I think Rouge Vif is the best handicapped over fences. £19 lower than when he was third in an Arkle. He won a handicap off in mid-150s over course and distance as well. You know, it's an interesting story behind him, because I mean, it was obviously Harry Whitten lost the horse to Paul Nicholls, and then he bought it back in a private sales for £40,000, and seems to have clearly laid him out for this. There's money for him coming in. Can see why, because of the handicap angle. Just he tends to be windy in a finish, but I can see him placing at a decent price for sure. And yeah, I mean, I always said Shoot First always come back to him. His price hasn't even come out, but there is interesting rivals against him. But Shoot First won that. I mean, no Salvador Ziggy has his backers, and I mean, Shoot First had bundles in hand there. I mean, nobody's looking to reverse the form from that race, I don't think. 139, very generous. I think he's got tons to offer. And out of them all, top of the market, I would be backing him. The Bosch Oscar is going back to his old mark. I mean, that's the thing where you can show your old hand and you come back. But Sadly Belly did it. He can do it. He had a sinus issue. The Bosch Oscar quite likes, but even he's not quite the market. You've got to kind of anticipate these big hikes that some Irish horses are going to get.
Yeah, I think that's it as well. I think just the fact that we haven't seen him since he won that qualifier. There's actually a few Charles Burns horses that are very well handicapped, and you've also got the added thing: is he going to put Philip on board and claim 5? That's the thing with a couple of these horses. Like Run for Oscar, especially in the Coral Cup, could be big as well if Philip was on board.
Yeah, that looks likely. I mean, you'd definitely be looking to utilise that kind of claim, because he's certainly a very talented rider. There's a couple even that are really low at the weights that could get in. I mean, Grosney's one in the Martin Pike that potentially could creep in there. Horses like that. But yeah, I think he's got like 5 concrete chances, and I think 4 of them are already single odds. So there's obviously a lot of market respect for Charles Burns.
Yeah, absolutely. Next question: what is Paul Townend's ride going to be in the Ballymore? Willie seems to have 3 big horses in that race. We've also Imperi Pass, Gaelic Warrior, Champ Kiley. If you were Paul Townend, what would you ride?
I think you'd have to ride Gaelic Warrior. I think the reputation stuff. I think I do think you kind of feel obliged to ride that. I think Imperi Pass is probably the best horse out of the 3. I'd rather see him running a Supreme, but that's beside the point now. But I think he's probably the best jumper in the race. But I think Paul Townend has a pretty long established relationship now with Gaelic Warrior. He's pretty quirky. I think to give him the best chance, you'd want kind of the rider that knows him best on board in his races to kind of straight out and give him every chance, because he does have a chance in his talent. It was revealed that he did a wee operation in his back, which might actually completely straighten him out, and he could. And if that has worked wonders, he could easily.
Does that worry you though that he's a procedure this close to a big race?
Not particularly if it's a minor tweak like that. No, I don't think so. I think they've had time to do that, and I think they know what they're looking for there. It might be an act of desperation that young. It didn't look that obvious move, but it wouldn't bother me. Close Sutton are pretty canny outfit. They know what they're looking at with the makeup of horses, so I would trust them in that regard. But I do think he'll probably ride Gaelic Warrior, just because of the reputation factor and the hype, and he is more Grade 1 Stardust, I think, than the other 2. And I think as leading jockey, I think you want to ride the most high profile horse as well, and I think he's probably the more high profile horse of the 3. So in case it does go wrong, at least he can point to, well, I really had to go and pick this one. I think there's more excuses to get out as well if you pick Gaelic Warrior.
Yeah, I think if Imperi Pass wasn't the Meniere and Suede horse, and Daryl Jacob obviously can go on that, I think he would probably go Imperi Pass, but I would probably say that Danny Mullins is likely to ride Champ Kiley. Gaelic Warrior, as you say, I think is the more. I think he needs the big jockey more. I think Imperi Pass, Daryl Jacob, I'm not worried about that. I do. The more I think about it, the more I think Imperi Pass is the better this race. And Champ Kiley, the best performance he's put in was in the Laurels of Naas where Danny was on board. So it just seems to fit. And I think Paul Townend and Gaelic Warrior seems to make the most sense. Final question. This is one I'm interested to get your thought on. Where will the pace come from in the Gold Cup?
Yeah, it's an interesting one because you've got a lot of them that probably sit prominently, but none of them are kind of outright going to set the pace. I'd be looking at Ahoy Senor to make it this time. I think just go out and bowl out and see what you can do from the front. I think there's enough horses here that would prefer a stamina test. And, you're looking at a stamina test thinking, is this really the only way we can really beat the favourite here by going hard and testing that reserve up the hill? So I think he'll be prominent. I think Ahoy Senor will go forward. Brave Man's Game could go forward to get a little bit of daylight in a big Gold Cup. I can see that. Manila Indo will be prominent, I would think. There's enough horses. Statler could go forward if he wanted, though I don't think it suited him in the Irish Gold Cup. I think he'd rather be midfield, but he could go forward if he wanted to. Conflated will probably be given a waiting ride a little bit. Probably try and track Galloping Deschamps, who might be buried away in Inner again early on, and then I can see him being buried away in Inner and then coming out for the second circuit a little bit wider. But I can see Ahoy Senor going forward, but I don't think he'll have an easy time of it at all. I think Brave Man's Game will probably be in his heels, and so will Manila Indo. So and Aplutard, I don't think will be that far away. He could probably try and be midfield. you'd want to kind of know where he stands early doors, I think. So, I think it'll just be an evenly run Gold Cup. I know the last year's one was pretty falsely run. Album Photos was pretty pace orientated as well. So I do think there'll be a little bit more pace in it. Noble Yates will probably not be that up there, but you can rush him up if you wanted to try and make it a stamina test a little bit. Whether he's got the tactile speed to do that remains to be seen. There is pace angles in it. I think a hoist and yours probably the most likely one.
Yeah, I think it will probably be a hoist and yaw. If you've got a question in for, we're going to do a wee bit of bumper questions for next Friday's show. So if you've got a question, then please send it in to us and we'll answer it. We'll answer quite a few next week, actually. And we'll move into the recap. This week's recap, I don't think we're going to have many Cheltenham horses to talk about, but there's a couple that we can certainly get your thoughts on. We'll start on Thursday at Thurles. Bride's Hill beat Tell Me Something Girl. Bride's Hill is not entered for anything at Cheltenham. It was more Tell Me Something Girl here that was the takeaway. This horse has no chance in a Cheltenham Festival over fences.
No, she's in the Brown Advisory. She's in the Mail's Chase. They might try the Brown Advisory with her, but I don't think she's crying out for a trip either, to be honest. She did jump a bit better. That was only plus so because she was well beaten, but 4.5 lengths. She's not really progressing, is she?
No, and do you think as well, when obviously last year, I think we both agree she was tanking at one point before she fell in the Mayor's Hurdle. Now you've got Honeysuckle in there. Do you not just put her in the Mayor's in the race? She's got the best chance of winning. She should be in the Mayor's Hurdle. You look at last year's race; she was the best horse in it up to a point.
Yeah, but now it's a stronger renewal and there's stable stars going there. And even though she's favourite, she's no guarantee to win this. I mean, I don't think Tell Me Something Girl's get much. Her form's just. I mean, at least last season she was shaping well and finishing out her races and tipping along. Spring was the target. This season, it's just been. Pretty much confidence knock after confidence knock over fences. She jumped a little bit better, which is at least thing, and she might get a handicap over fences down the line, but that'll probably have to wait till next season. And she's not getting much younger, so I can see why they're persisting with it now. But I think it's kind of this season seems a bit of a write-off unless something really at the tail end can kind of spark it to life a little bit. But it's all a little bit flat at the moment for her. Yeah,
I would just, if I was Henry, I would just put her on her box until maybe Fairy House and you've got that grade 1. Maybe try her over that and just see if it helps her. But I don't think she's a Cheltenham horse. Safarur won the Michael Purcell quite well, actually. Beat Buddy, won by a short head, but I thought he was the best horse in the race. There is 16-1 in places for the County Hurdle. What do you think of this horse for Cheltenham?
He doesn't really interest me too much. Short head, but they kind of kept up the work, and he could have lost that in the stewards room. Jinking out, almost impeding the second. It was a bit fortunate to keep it, but he did. I think there might be better kind of Elliott Colwell operations for Cheltenham. I think if he turned up, he'd have a chance, but I don't think he's that well treated. I don't think it was a great race.
I would be interested to see if he lines up at Cheltenham. County Hurdle seems to be the plan. Saturday at Kempton, let's start with the Adonis. What a terrible race this was. And terrible race in terms of the British horses, and the British juveniles this year are really, really poor.
Yeah, I mean, the scriptwriter not going, Bo Zenith not going, there's nothing 40-1 or shorter for the Triumph, and that reflects their chances. This race should change complexion by the leader, Sarson's Risk, falling at the third last. It hampered quite a few, also hampered the winner. If Percy Swede jumped a bit cleaner, he could have won, yeah, but I mean, Nusrat, I know he's now second favourite for the Boodles. He's better right-handed. I don't think he's got much chance in the Boodles, to be honest, now, of A, an increased weight, and B, going left-handed. I just think Joseph O'Brien's kind of done well by plundering all these kind of graded races here in Britain, because Willie Mullins has got it all sorted really across the Irish Sea, so he might as well take the prize money over here and capitalise on what kind of deplorable juvenile talent that the British have got, because Scriptwriter was beaten after one hurdle. He completely lost his confidence. something not right, possibly. But I mean, it was a really bad run. I think even shocked the trainer, to be honest, who did reveal that he had a massive bet on him. And had to give weight, and he just completely lost confidence, and he started backing out about almost every hurdle. Just obviously a bad sign. You're looking at probably Percy's way being the best of them. Whether he can land a blow in a Boodles, you'd think he needs it softer, but you can't clout hurdles like he does and expect to get away with it. So no, I mean, It's also a completely different test. Just a few weeks before Cheltenham as well. It doesn't really reflect into a good kind of Cheltenham trial anyway. So probably more injury down the line, I think. So
I think I don't see much coming out of this regards to Cheltenham. Maybe Percy's way if the ground was a bit softer, but again, I just think that the juveniles in Britain this year are really poor. Terrific from Joseph O'Brien. He's won all three kind of big Grade 2 kind of juveniles this year. He's really good place, and we both had a good winner on Saturday with Solo winning the Pendle quite well, actually. I thought it was a terrific round of jumping. Solo's not entered for anything at Cheltenham, but the second and third are. Obviously, that's all right. Gino's entered in quite a few races. Boot Hill, again, as well. Solo was really good. Do you take anything out second and third for the festival?
I don't think they're well handicapped enough. I mean, these kind of novices keep beating each other around, which is muddling even the John Bond foreman behind a bit even further. It's a word in the winner. I mean, he just loves Kempton going right-handed in a speed test. You know, and you give him an uncontested lead like that, he can do things like probably what Pick Doherty can do next season. You know, right-handed, bow along, flat track, bully them out of sight. It was a great performance. I mean, really sharp jumping. Fences and his jumping won him the day. That's all right. Gino was kind of wide throughout, really. I think his mark just kind of sums him up. That would probably be my issue with him, but he's not without a chance. You know, maybe going up and trip for a plate, something like that. I mean, he wouldn't be out of the question. He's place foreman behind Stage Star, so he wouldn't be completely out of the equation a stiffer test. And Boot Hill didn't really improve for going up and trip that much. I think he still kind of found it a bit sharp for him, so maybe dropping him back to even 2 miles where he should get a decent pace in a Grand Angle. You know, it might clip him back into some sort of place contention there. So yeah, I think the second and third have each way chances, but I do think there'll be better handicapped horses that'll probably beat both of them. As for Solo, I go Sandown at the end of the season with him. Keep him right-handed. You know, there is a decent kind of novice chase in him for the celebration chase meeting, I think. So yeah, he goes well fresh. I mean, he's had wind problems in the past, but anyway, he just turns up at that time of year. You know, that's kind of the old Johnny Delahaye horses seem to be like that. You know, bowl it from the front and get it done then, and then plunder these kind of wee Grade 2 races. You know, the Nichols I think has won 13 and 18 Pendle novices chases, which is it's a standing dish room there.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's move into the Coral Trophy that was won by Our Power for Sam Thomas and Sam Twiston Davis. This horse does have an entry for the Ultima, but 12-1. Obviously beat Phlegmatic for the Skeltons by a neck. It was quite an interesting finish, actually. What do you think of Our Power for the Ultima?
I wouldn't like him either because again, Kempton right-handed. Yeah, and then you go up in the weights, and then your kind of chances kind of gone a little bit. He did well to kind of keep pitching away because he looked being outpaced, and Phlegmatic kind of cruised into it. It was one of these kind of, you know, Skelton mapped out for the season kind of handicaps for him, and he just went a bit too soon, and Our Power was able to catch him. So it was a good effort. He's not handicapped out of the equation at all. He's got bits and bobs of Cheltenham form, but I don't think it's really his kind of track. I think maybe a flatter track suits him a bit more, where he can get balance and make up the ground. He also whacked 1-4 out, which kind of put him in the back. I did think he was actually done with at the time, where like Killarkane was trying to come through a little bit, and then he kind of just flattened out. A lot of them flattened out in behind. I think there's stronger handicap form available than that, to be honest.
Yeah, I think there is as well. Rubod won the Dovecote as well. Nothing for Cheltenham. Kind of just made all. It wasn't really much in this race, was there?
Yeah, he got a soft freebie up front and made all. I thought he was looking for further, to be honest. That's what it looked like to me at Newbury and Betfair Hurdle Day, where everything apparently went wrong for me. But I didn't see too much issues. I just thought it was a bit too much. But back in novice company, it's obviously a bit quieter. It was a bit disappointing. You can Tango in third. I thought he'd be a bit better than that. The money came from him as well, which was, and the Muir horse didn't fire at all. So I think the forms open to question. And yeah, Rubot leave him fresh for the 2 miler at Aintree, the Grade 1 novice. That seems to be the plan.
Yep, absolutely. Let's move into Chepstow. I think we do have a good horse to talk about here. Thanks for the help. Won the Pertemps qualifier really impressively, actually. What was rated 117 has now been given a mark of 128. It still could be tight for him to get in a Pertemps. He's about 6-1, but this was a really good performance.
Yeah, I think he's just about going to get in. A very taking performance. I mean, question what he's beaten. Half of them were off the bridle halfway out, weren't they? It was, strung out like
Best I've ever seen Bear Gills jump, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, that sums it up. He's handicapped to the hilt, isn't he? He's stuck on for fourth. So I mean, it's not a great qualifier. But he's young, he's unexposed, and David Pipe Yard. Obviously, GP McManus owns. So, and yeah, he's kind of the British Percival Legua of this race, where he's kind of risen through the ranks. So he's going to qualify. He's going to get in. So yeah, GP McManus has obviously two obviously good progressive darts there. So yeah, I'll be against both of them, but they obviously merit respect, being top of the market.
Yeah, I thought it was a really good performance as well. I think he might just be kind of a year too soon for him in this kind of race. But again, you can't know the performance. It was very, very good. Newcastle, we did see Kitty's Light did win. Brilliant bit of placement from Christian Williams. There was a couple of times my heart was in my mouth watching this. His jumping leaves a lot to be desired. She is more a Midlands national, Scottish national type, isn't she?
Yeah, I thought she was a she as well, but apparently it's a he. The name, I just automatically thought. Yeah, automatically I just thought, I did tweet immediately after this race that for 3.5 miles I was very unhappy with how this was going. Brilliant ride from Jack Tudor to get him to persist for that long, and stuck in traffic and a bit boxed in, and did look like a 4 miler really. He was only getting going after the last. Jumped well when it mattered. There's a lot of non-stayers in behind though that didn't quite go home. That would be a bit more interesting over 3 miles. I thought Houston, Texas, for instance, and Nicky Richards absolutely tanked into it and then fell in a hole. The second in a Midlands National on genuine soft ground, the Galloping Bear could turn that form around, because if you clout one in bad ground, you're not going to get away with it. Kitty's Light seems to be much more effective in good ground, so she's still a few pounds below his second in the Scottish National. I would go there. Forget the Midlands National. Just go to Ayr. So, I mean, and he'd have a massive favourites chance there.
Yeah,
I keep calling her. She is in my mind, firmly in my mind, and he'll firmly be in my mind come Scottish National Day. But the price is 74 to go off to win an either is almost unheard of. I think it's been the shortest price since the mid-90s for a race like that. So it's pretty rare, but it was so obvious that was kind of the big target.
Yeah. Let's move into Fairyhouse. We've got a couple to mention that are potentially nice prospects for the future. Zenta was a nice winner in the juvenile hurdle. She could be a nice filly going forward. Maybe this year. She has entered for Cheltenham, but 20-1 for the Triumph. She's one maybe for next year.
Yeah, she's probably fifth favourite for the Triumph. I mean, she'll probably be fifth. I mean, that's kind of the way we're going.
Think she'll go?
She might. GP McManus might want another runner at it. She can't go anywhere else. Qualify for the Bulls. Done it before, and Gust of Wind could go there. Just Willie Mullins is getting absolutely no fear of just parachuting these juveniles straight into Grade 1 company. It can sometimes work out for them. I think I can see her just running a nice race in behind and being one. Maybe if they're all over the hill by Punchestown, she could really shine there. Who knows?
Yeah,
she did absolutely hammer the last 2 hurdles. As to be said as well. There is a lot of work to be done there, and that would be an automatic worry if you liked it at big prices. So I mean, usually you get one Willie Mullins horse. But I would rather have Gust of Wind that's had a run at least in Grade 1 company, although well beaten, rather than an untapped horse like that is just absolutely destroyed the last 2 hurdles. I mean, she was lucky not to come down, to be honest.
Yeah. One horse I forgot to actually tell you about was a horse that won was Kenboy, beat Vanillier by half a length. None of these are winning. None of these are even going to Cheltenham, but Vanillier for a Grand National?
Well, yeah, I mean, his jumping keeps getting better. I mean, in the Grand Nationals of old, this horse would have absolutely no chance of getting round. But
Yeah,
nowadays, with the softer, slighter fences, which has been rightfully done to make the race safer, he might get away with it. And yeah, he was massively wrong in there against Ken Boy and pushed him pretty close. But Ken Boy's on the decline, Willie Mullins sees that. He's not going to even go for the little thing with him. I think he's going to stick. There's a race at Cork in early April, a kind of similar kind of 3 mile grade 3 event where I think he's going to plunder these before he kind of sets off for the horizon, because he's had a terrific career.
Yeah, absolutely has. One horse I think will be interesting for next year is Down Memory Lane for Gordon Elliott. This was a really nice bumper performance.
It was, yeah, and that horse has got pace. It really does have pace. I know a couple think that it might be a kind of supreme horse down the line next season.
Point-to-point winner as well.
Yeah, I can see that angle. Definitely one to follow for the future. It was a good performance. Put away an okay Willie Mullins rival that was behind the bridle all the time, but still plodded on. It was completely outpaced by the Elliott horse. Yeah, definitely one to watch out for the future. Not for this season though. Yeah,
not for this season. A horse at Naas that is now favourite for the Albert Bartlett. This is a weird one, isn't it? This Corbett's Cross for Emmett Mullins. It's now 92 for the Albert Bartlett. It won over 2 miles, right? Beating out, and I think I found a 50 who looks okay. I think he's got a lot to improve on. But how many Albert Bartlett favourites have we ever talked about that wins over 2 miles in a penultimate run?
Well, I mean, that's a thing that's where Emmett Mullins can really do. I mean, they're talking about Noble Yates, bucked every single trend in the book to win a Grand National. This is his speciality. They have swerved the Clonmel race that was bought out by Hidden Valley Lake and Monty Star in favour for this, because of the better ground, and it's what wonders in the end. Found a 50 is a good horse. He had optimum conditions at pace. He travelled by far the best. He travelled like the 2 miler into it, and then he's pickpocketed by Corbett's Cross, who somehow had the pace to deal with that. Now the thing is that it opens even more avenues. The connections have spoken of not even going to Cheltenham.
Do you think he's the right favourite for the Bartlett?
On terms of raw potential, yeah, because I think if he translates what he did there into 3 Mile Company, he stays. So yeah, he probably marginally is, just because of that unknown class angle. I think he definitely kind of has it there now. Would I back him? No, because it just kind of, the preparation just kind of pickles you a little bit, because it's a completely different assignment now to what it is. Now the trainer's a master at dealing with these kind of things. Look at the progression with Shunter and Noble Yates is the big example, but he wouldn't have many runners in an Albert Bartlett dealing with like novice hurdlers. And the experience factor, it might catch him out slightly. So, and there's so many alternatives to him at bigger prices as well. He's been steamed in. You can see why he might be a cut above, but I wouldn't be taking the risk. And it's no certainty that he seems to be going here either.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see how this is going to work, because I think this horse could be a good one, but again, is he going to handle a 3 mile trip in the Bartlett the same way he handled that? The final horse to mention at Fontwell was Brewing Up a Storm, who's now 16-1 for the Coral Cup, won the National Spirit Grade 2 at Fontwell, 148. He's in the Coral Cup. He's not without a chance. He's going to be amongst high the weights, but this race was a bit weird.
Yeah, trainer says he won't go. I'm going to wait for something else. He has this unbelievable ability to hit the last hurdle no matter what, and he still did it there. He was well in. He was getting weight off Screw Royal, who ran pretty well to his mark, I thought, which gives an indication that the ground was good. And going left-handed, which Goshen went to his mad self again, almost ran out. So
there was times you were thinking he's going to end up in the paddock.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely has to be. Even though there has been kind of next to no races for him this season.
It's very, very difficult to know what to do with this horse, because this horse has won a Grade 2 this year and still went over fences, didn't handle that well. What do you do with him?
he's been done in by climate change, because I mean it's like you need soft ground going right-handed, and those opportunities have been few and far between, and that's what he needs, and no fences. So you just campaign him on soft 2.5 mile right-handed graded hurdles. That's what we can do. There's not really enough of them for him to do him justice, because being deep soft ground, he might get away with going left-handed. He might get away with the ground if he's just going right-handed if it's quick, like he did at Ascot this season.
Yeah.
So, but with both of those factors against him, he's got no chance. So I think that's how you kind of try and campaign him. He's always going to be a horse that seems invariably not to really get his kind of conditions now. He's definitely not persist with, but I think when it's both quick ground and left-handed, I wouldn't run him.
No.
Yeah, I would wait and leave it for another day,
Yeah,
because he's more likely to run out than ever before by the looks of it in that. But Bruno Bastom did it well. You can take their chances at Aintree, I think, with him.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's move into what's coming up this week. We have a few races to talk about at Kelso. Let's start with the Bet365 More Battle Hurdle. It's always an interesting handicap, maybe not a Cheltenham clues in it. McTeague 7-2 for M. Mullins. We have Skeltons have Leo Desud at 11-2, Colonel Mustard 6-1, Teddy Blue 13-2. You've got likes of Dearmark, Cormier also in there, Tritonic. What do we think here? McTeague is very interesting off 142, but I just think he might be too high in the rates.
Could be. Again, this is just like unconventional Emmett Mullins thing that you've got to kind of look at here. Is this kind of a well plotted horse? But you know the form. If you basically look at the form and the numbers of this, it really shouldn't have much chance.
No.
That's kind of the issue with that. Therefore, I'll probably leave him alone. Colonel Mustard's probably quite interesting at the top. Yeah. I think he's more likely to claim this, win the bonus, and follow on. I think.
Do you think he goes county hurdle?
I think he has to definitely county and keep the claimer on. I mean that's what I would sort of be inclined to do. Cormier went county and did this. The shunter obviously had different options, because they knew what they had, and he could have went to any of the handicaps. He had 4 options over hurdles and fences, and he looked capable of winning all of them, to be honest. It's just a McTeague. It's not even the weight; it's a 4-year-old factor here. It's just so much inexperience. You'd think, and Boodles is probably, if he wins this, he's definitely handicapped out of that. He won't get in a Martin Pipe once he wins this.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of left with Coral Cup.
He
goes there, and that's a tall order at the base for a 4-year-old, and that would be unheard of. But 7-year-olds winning Grand Nationals were unheard of. So I mean, you can't categorically rule these things out with this trainer. It's unconventional, but that's what he does. I'd be sticking with Colonel Mustard, I think. I would give a shout out to Cormier as well at Price last year's winner. Lady Sir could be unexposed, but this is a race that's very hard to predict.
Colonel Mustard for me, maybe at a plate, maybe at a price, Nayati for Donald McCain, but again, it's a shot in the dark. I think Colonel Mustard's probably the one here. We've got the Premier Novices Hurdle, a Grade 2. Emmett Mullins again has a favourite, Ferron Lily at 5-2. Neiman Lion at 9-2 for Kerry Lee. Accidental Rebel, Colonel Harry, Ojoly Smoke, Snake Roll, like so for Lucinda Russell. What do you think here?
I'd be sticking with the Chilworth form, the Me and Lion and Colonel Harry. I would think.
Colonel Harry.
This is as good as it should be. I would probably take those two against the field. That would be just my angle going into it. And the fourth was a long way behind the third, but I think that Colonel Harry might have a bit more potential, and this track might be a bit more comfortable for him. He won't be that. He shouldn't be too outpaced early doors, I don't think. So I can see the fourth maybe getting closer. The Mullins horse obviously merits huge respect. I can leave him alone here. Give Snake Roll a shout at a price, but that'll be about it.
Yeah, I think Colonel Harry, I think, is probably about my pick here. We'll move into the Premier Chase. 6-1 the field. Lamilos is 6-1 for the Skeltons. Sansa, obviously a horse you've liked in the past, 8-1. The Shunters there at 8-1 as well for Emmett Mullins. And then you've got Wishing and Hoping. Three interesting horses here. I kind of think the Shunter.
Yeah, I mean, Adrian Zanza's here. I mean, I thought he'd be declared for Newbury. To be honest, for that race.
Yeah.
Maybe they think he's too high in the handicap. I mean, he's probably got a first or second preference. The Shunter might turn this around for it, but Lemilos does look like a bona fide Grand National contender. And the market seems pretty bizarre here.
Yeah, I think it's yet to be updated. I think we've got a lot of pullouts here.
Yeah, I think it's just been kind of taken by surprise what it is. So I think the prices are a little bit in flux. What I'm seeing here, I would go with Lemilos. If he's there, I don't know if Sounds Russian's going. Don't know if he's been taken out.
He's been taken out. I think that's why. I think it's been priced up under the assumption he's going, because I would imagine he would have been odds on for this.
Yeah, he would have been close odds, or he was 74 overnight. So I would.
That's exactly what it is then.
Yeah, they've been kind of caught cold here a little bit. They're probably surprised that Zanza's still been declared. Yeah, I mean, Lemilos or the Shunter, you'd be looking at those two. I'd probably side with Lemilos. He's been to Kelso before, so I think that might be a bit of a plan as a prep for the National. Yeah,
I'm going to go for the Shunter. We'll move into Doncaster. We have the Grimthorpe handicap chase. Cooper's Cross for the Colters at 9-4. He does see no for Kim Bailey 4-1. Castle Robin 5s, under supervision 7s 9-1. Windsor Avenue 10-1 bar. Short price favourite in terms of the Colters have a 94 favourite in a race at Doncaster in good ground. That's interesting.
Form franked by Captain Ord last time out when they won here. That's probably why, and he's not handicapped out of things. That's what he does. Like, I mean, he makes the handicap, doesn't he? He's like miles top. Sam Coulter doesn't have any problem going off 10 stone 4.
Yeah.
My original Ultima horse is running in this, and it's Castle Robin. I don't understand why he's here, because I think Ultima's a bit more suitable even for him. Brian Hughes is booked. They were talking about going Kim Muir. I think they still could go to Cheltenham. He's still getting an entry, but the turnaround would put me off massively. He looked really good when winning from the front at Sandown, and that kind of style suits at Cheltenham, where he was favourite for a decent race. He gets struck into and was eased off. So I mean, I think that was pretty excusable. He won over tracking trip here before. I might have to have a saver on him, but I do think Cooper's Cross here is probably hard to beat. Under supervision, won that 12 months ago. He could bounce back to form. So I mean, they're three I would be inclined to take on, does he know, at the top of the weights.
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting race. Newbury, we have the Greatwood Gold Cup. Paint the Dream 72 Zanza's declared in this as well. It's interesting to see where Zanza's going to go. I have a strong fancy on this. I think Sebastopol at 13-2 for Tom Lacey and Stan Shepherd off 147 is pretty solid here.
Snap, because I'd expect Zanza to turn up here. He was given a ridiculous £15 for winning a grade 2.
Crazy, isn't it?
Terrible. That's probably my biggest handicapping gripe around, these grade 2s and giving them a whack for that. He won by a distance. You'd have to give him up, but I mean, just put him up 10. Don't put him up £15. Mm-hmm. I mean, just put him up to 150 or something. Give him a chance here. Paint the Dream should reverse the form. He's more of a kind of hardened handicapper. I think the weight increase might find Zanza out, hence why he's still involved in the Kelso conversation, probably in more favourable listed terms. But I like Sebastopol as well. Hammered Stage Star. Stage Star probably wasn't right, but I mean, Sebastopol probably wasn't given enough credit for what he's achieved before then. And at the weights, given the top two are making it, he seems to be the obvious alternative here. I think he's going to be very hard to kick out the frame. Yeah.
What do you think of Michael Nolan and Time Hill?
I think that's an absolute perfectly fine decision. I don't see. I mean, just because he's got a lack of experience. At Cheltenham, he's a second stable jockey, practically like Philip Hobbs. I mean, who else is going to ride him? I think it's perfectly fine. I wouldn't have a problem with it if I was on.
Yeah, nothing. I was interesting to see. I was quite surprised by it, but as you say, I don't have an issue with it in the slightest. We have one more race to talk about with the Flying Bolt Novices Chase over 2 miles. Flame Bearer, Hollow Games, Hador, Indiana Jones, and Barrancula. Flame Bearer for me here. I think this is made for him.
Between him and Hador, and I think Flame Bearer should probably win. He was the one that was kind of touted that he would, out of Willie Burns' kind of hot shot 2 miles, wasn't he? He was the one that was meant to be touted to stay at home for these kind of races, so I'd expect him to pick him up.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be an interesting weekend. Maybe not so many Cheltenham clues, but we're going to move into the final part where we'll look at our Ante Post selections. Have a wee look at our Ante Post selections coming on the screen just now. Just a couple of wee things I want to get your thoughts on. One horse that I'm intrigued to know where you think he's going to go is 3 Card Bragg. He's been given a rating of 142, which obviously means he can qualify for the Martin Pipe. Do you think that's where he's going?
Albert Bartlett.
Think so?
Definitely. That has been the talk for months. They're leaning that way, even in the ground. I'm not too bothered with that. I don't think Max McNeil's interest in a handicap project. It's still there if they want it, but I think he's better than that, and I think it's got a decent chance in Albert Bartlett. So yeah, I think it's 80-20 that he's probably definitely going to run there. I would say.
Path through 141 for the county hurdle.
Delighted with that.
That's
with
very
that.
good. Yeah,
that's absolutely fine. I think it's got a cracking chance. Yeah.
And one of your strongest fancies of the week is Tikal. He has been given a rating of 135.
You can give him what he wants. Doesn't matter. He'll win. Biker's the threat, though. The Charles Burns horse is the danger. Common practice goes. A few people have highly touted them. Wouldn't be for me. Risk Bell. Yeah, again, we'd have a chance, but that was a heavy fault, Leopardstown. For a young filly like that to come back and not have our confidence dented, I think would worry me slightly. I can see why the money's coming in. I think Biker's the danger. He might be the only danger, but I wasn't fussed. We won't give to Cal whatever. I didn't care. There
has been conflicting weight regarding the boss's Oscar. He's been given 145. That has been confirmed. 145. He's a chance off that.
No, so that's official. So I haven't put it on yet.
145. He's off.
I think that because that was he was kind of. I mean, maybe Gordon Hill actually had a word there at the Cheltenham weight at lunch, because the first thing he said, he was pretty livid about the box's Oscar. So what on earth is going on here? If it is 145, definitely. But I mean, there's so many of them that are still kind of up in the air. I think trying to ascertain what's really going on, how they properly fit in. So 145, I'd be delighted. I wasn't even that put off by 150, 151. I mean, you've got to anticipate that the Irish will be whacked if you fancy an Irish one now. The general rule of thumb recently has been that the British have got more chance in the handicap chases. They're better treated there than they are in the hurdlers, because Ireland can put more up their sleeve in the hurdlers because they're less exposed. But in the chasing form, I think it's more exposed, and it's a lot harder to kind of keep something in the tank for that. So, I think Britain's best chance of saving face is through the chases, and I'm more happy with the handicap picks I've got than the graded stuff. At the moment.
A Knight in Lambourne's 135. He's 34th in the list. Is he going to get in?
Get in.
Think
Tons of rubbish at the top. Tons of rubbish at the top that will not go.
Yeah. I was doing a wee dance with one of my imagine get a rating of 139. I was doing a wee dance when I seen that.
That was a popular one. That was a popular one for the Martin Pipe. My take on him. I don't think he's much of a 2.5 miler. And I don't like horses that rack up these sequence of seconds either. I would like to have maybe had his head in front of one of them.
Spanish Harlem's going to go favourite in that race.
I can't believe that. I mean, unless it's a really exacerbated handicap plot, and he's the one that they've tagged onto. But from what I've seen from him, he's been more bitterly disappointing than being held back.
Yeah, I can't have him from.
I think his finishing effort is pretty deplorable, to be honest, and I think he's a shocking favourite at the moment for this.
Yeah, the Willie Mullins horse that interests me in that race is Hottier. And we're given a rating of 136.
Same connections, and he's probably more interesting. I would say that, but I mean, the Martin Pipe at the moment, does look like a bit of a clouded mess because a lot of them can get into the Coral Cup.
This is the year for Langer. This is the year we're going to kick ourselves. Langer Dan's going to win off 1-4-1.
I backed him at Aintree when he won, and that's the only time I ever backed him, and that's the only time I'll ever back him.
Yeah, I would never back him for this race. Let's go to our Ante Post pick for this week. Are you want to go first, or will I?
Yeah, you can go first this week.
I will go first. I have a horse in the Kim Muir for Henry de Bromhead for Gigginstown House Stud. It is Royal Thief of 138. This horse has been quite hard to follow. Again, do you want to know the last time this horse ran before we saw him in January, this New Year's Eve?
I don't know, but it's a run about more than 700 days ago.
730 days it was before we saw him on the 24th of November at Punchestown, finishing 10th of 11th. Can you guess who won that race?
No, absolutely not. No.
Cole Reedy.
There you go.
There you go. I just think this horse is well in as well. I thought he jumped really well last time out. Really well. Beat Fakira, who's slow as a boat. Patrick Mullins was on board. Now he's going to ride Mr. Incredible. I'd be interested to see the jockey booking for this. Could Ben Harvey take the ride? I think he's a really, really good price at 16-1, and he's off 138. I think he's a massive player in this race.
Yeah, he'd be my Irish horse in it. Yeah, I like a night in Lamborn, but I do respect his chance of coming off a massive layoff and winning against a decent yardstick pretty comfortably. There's more to offer. I think there's decent plan of attack vibes around him. When Henry de Bromhead targets this, he normally go well. The plan of attack was desperately unlucky. The year Mount Ida won, he'd probably been second anyway because that horse was graded class in the end. Stumptown obviously is popular. He's probably maybe a bit more progressive, but
I don't get Mr. Incredible at all. Like, I do not. I get that he's a Willie Mullins horse and he's 145. Patrick's going to be on board. I don't think he's good enough. I think he's.
I think a Grand National is more suitable for him. He's spacing your fences, and if you clout one of these standard, which he normally does, he did run on at the end at Warwick. I think Rob James will be booked for this horse. I think that's been the plan as well. Royal Thief.
Yeah, could be interesting.
I think we've got a good chance of that happening because I think Gigginstown, like him, utilised him. So I think it'll be him. I'm definitely strongly considering a saver for my private booking him to cover a night in Lamborn. But I do think he's an Irish threat at a price that I like as well. So I like that one.
Yeah, Royal Thief at 16-1 on or no bet. What is your selection this week?
It's 10-1. It's in the Ultima and it's Corrick Rambler.
There we go. I was waiting on him coming in.
And double him up to win the Grand National as well.
Price is that?
I would say. But if he was about the same price to win the Grand National, you'd probably get about 150 to 1 for the double, perhaps. It's 144. On the basis that if he's the same price to win a Grand National, why is he? You look at the rest of the market here. What one of these would be? Have a chance in a Grand National?
No.
Never mind this. He's only up £6 for winning it last year. If he extended the race by another furlong, he would have won by 15 lengths. He was well on top at the line. He absolutely bolted up in between two horses. The Oscar Elite is only about £3 better off than him, and he's the same price. No chance in comparison to Corrick Rambler. The threat from last year's renewal was Jericho Rock. He's out. I know people are putting up the fourth T Clipper. Again, little hope of him reversing the form of Corrick Rambler and like minute rises. I think it's only £5 there. That's not enough. Corrick Rambler still get more in hand. They obviously think that by decent support from him in the Grand National weights coming out. He's got a bit more to carry. 11 stone 1 capacity, 10 stone 2, but it's only a £6 rise on the raw figures from last year. But he's still pretty much a similar price. And then Urpomp to 2 went here, back-to-back winners. It's the same horse that's going to come back and back for this. The Irish don't like it because you'd rather stay at home for better prize money, and they've got a terrible record in it, and you'd rather target the Irish National. So they don't really fire the best here, not get much to worry about here. And 3 under 3.5 is badly handicapped in comparison to Corrick Rambler. So I know people looking at Lord Accord. This is a higher grade. You've got to remember that this is a higher grade. It's a tougher race. There is some pace angles from the front as well, and this 3 under through 5 should be handy, for instance. He'd want to make it a stamina test. And I can see Corrick Rambler coming out and going at least really close again. And he's at a decent price. I think he should be favourite for this. Into Overdrive, he's got some decent form behind the home press and stuff like that, but he's a bit unexposed. Again, this is a slight rise in grade, though. I think Corrick Rambler he's the best horse in this race, and he's definitely not handicapped out of things. Peter Scudamore says that he's fit enough to do himself just. And you can be. You don't need to protect a mark. The mark's already out. It doesn't matter what he does here.
Yeah.
If he goes up and showcases his full ability and wins this handsomely, you're getting single figure odds for the Grand National all of a sudden. Yeah, that's what I believe. I think because he's trained up here, I think he's completely overlooked at times. And because the yard have got a hoist and yaw, I think he's a bit kind of forgotten about. He's one for Arthur Type 2, in my opinion. And even his run at Newbury, where he was fourth, I mean, that was quick ground. The leaders didn't come back, and he still made up an absolute ton of ground again at the back of the telly. You know, he's like your Noble Yates Gold Cup angle. If he's still in the picture turning in, he's going to be finishing off much the best. I think he's got a really good each way chance here. Despite his racing style, should be against him, but it should have been against him last year, and it didn't matter. I don't think the £6 rise is overly harsh, because it's not harsh in a Grand National context, and it's certainly not harsh here against. You know, it's not a great handicap either.
I can see it. There's two that I came out. I like the Corrick Rambler angle, obviously backing him last year. I like Beauport for this race because he's not getting in a Kim Murray's off 148. I think Beauport could be one for me.
Again, how's he higher rated than Corrick Rambler?
I know.
And what his novice form is average in comparison to that.
Yeah,
his last two runs have been pretty rubbish, I think. You know. But I mean, he wouldn't be out of chance because it's not a great race.
No, Nassalam's close to the top of the bet, and he's £2 lower than Corrick Rambler. He's no chance.
I can see why. He can step up and trip a little bit in the 3 miles.
It wouldn't be for me at all.
That plate form is okay. Behind the Skelton horse, which seems pretty reliable. So yeah, but I can see him being outstayed at the end. Hopefully by Corrick Rambler, who can just come through again late. You know, Derek Fox is brilliant at these hold-up rides.
Yeah.
I mean, I seen him do it time and time again over
Ride of the meeting last year, comfortably.
Definitely was one of them. You know, when he just like, is he going to go stand side wheel, or is he going to go round them? That he just goes, spots a gap and just charges through them. You know, a bit like Champ did.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. So yeah, Remaster would have a chance, but he's 10. He looks over 150. You know, that looks a bit of a tall order. It was just one of those kind of races where I saw a few others that I like go elsewhere, lower down the weights, and then just come back round to the winner last year. I don't think he's been whacked out of it at all. Yeah,
I think it's an interesting pick. I'm keen to see. We're going to have one more round of Ante Post picks next week, and that is going to be us for the festival, Calum. It's so close. It's time to start the study, and that's the way I'm looking at it. The next few nights are going through all the weights and just seeing what we can find.
It is, yeah. No, I mean, I'm just going to start going through the season chasers now. I mean, you need to get an opinion on the Champion Chase and the Gold Cup and the Ryanair and things like that, and then the Mussies really, and through the season hurdlers, the novice chasers, and then your novice hurdlers, and then I'll be going through the other races, like your bumpers and cross countries, and then into the handicaps. Well, the week's going to settle and the scratches going to come in, so and you'll be able to see where we're at now. But then to just fill the book out before I'm jetting off to watch it. So I mean, it's the first time I'm kind of holidaying it away, so I want to kind of have it all done before leaving.
Brilliant. Well, we're going to wrap up this week's show, Calum. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks again.
Brilliant. Thank you very much to everyone that's tuned in. Please follow us on social media for consistent Cheltenham Festival coverage from now until the Supreme, and as well for subscribe to our YouTube and podcast channels. YouTube, follow Friday we're going to have the penultimate show here, and Sunday we're going to have a Cheltenham preview show at 5 o'clock. We'll see you then. Cheers.